Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. As usual, it's Gabe doing one of the interviews, and today we have with us on the line and on video Frank Gogol. You know him as the creator of No Heroine, Dead End Kids, and Grief. He's won the Independent Creator Awards and also a Ringo Award for Grief and Dead End Kids on that Independent Creator Award. Frank, welcome back to the show. How are you doing, man?
Thanks for having me back. Is this the third time
I
now?
think this is
Do I
the
get,
third time, yeah.
do I get a championship belt? Like, am I the reigning champ
So
yet?
there's another guy that I think has been on the show 5 times. He's another independent comic creator, so maybe we'll just have you back month after month for a couple months, and then you catch up with him.
Game. Yeah, I need a couple belts.
Right.
I'm good. I'm good. Like, all things considered, it's 2020. There's a lot of really awful shit going on. Um,
Right.
but I'm healthy. My wife and I are both healthy. We're both still working. We haven't killed each other being locked in the house for
Oof.
the last, guys, have been 9 months already. And still making comics. So like, yeah, aside from not traveling to cons and going to work every day, like things are kind of the same in a comfortable way.
That's awesome, man. It's good to hear that you're healthy, everything being what it is. It's like crazy, and you hate to even think about like your friends and people that like on a professional level getting sick, but you hear about it all the time. So I'm glad you're doing good, man. so so kind of to dive right into that, like, so I know how you are about conventions. Like, you latch onto them and you go, 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 go during that convention season. I think the last time we talked was like probably in like January or February. So like we were all kind of getting ready for convention season, but then like it all collapsed in on itself. What was it like watching that all just kind of fall apart at the beginning of the year? Because I know it was really deflating for us, and we don't rely on it for income. We go to do the show. It's not, part of my living. So it's like, I can't imagine what that was like.
Yeah, it was pretty well. I mean, the whole first quarter to half of the year was kind of like that, like kind of like just managed expectations, always lowering and lowering, lowering. Luckily for all the conventions I do, it really doesn't count as a source of income for me, like, which is just great. I work a day job, Monday through Friday, full time, like most people, and that pays the bills and pays for comics. Everything I do at conventions, I honestly lose a lot of money doing conventions, but it's part of the game. It's how you network. It's how you see your friends. It's like mini vacations every other week for me. But honestly, like, losing that social aspect was like a real bitch, if I can be like completely frank with you. Like, contrary to what most creators feel about conventions, I really like conventions. Like, I get like big adrenaline boosts from them. I always feel like a ton more creative coming back from them. Like, after I've gotten to see my Source Point pals and my other creator friends and fans and stuff like that, and just kind of being bouncing off of other people's ideas and stuff. Like, and I always come back that Monday or Tuesday, like, jazzed and ready to go. And like, finding sort of something to fill that gap this year has not been the same. Like, because it's just the only day of the week I know for sure any week is Monday, because that's when work starts again. But like, by Wednesday, I'm not sure if it's Tuesday or Thursday anymore.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, the weekends are kind of like I know when they are, but like Saturday and Sunday feel exactly the same until they're over. So it's been tough. I mean, like I said, we're healthy over here, and like, I'm still making the comics, and that's going as well as you can hope for in this situation. But yeah, I definitely miss it. I wonder how much it has stalled my career. Not that like I had like this bustling career where I was doing 10 books for Marvel every month or anything like that, or any books for Marvel for that matter. But the opportunities to meet those Marvel editors were severely limited this year. I did 2 conventions, and one of them wasn't even that big. So like, it is what it is, and you kind of got to figure it out and move forward. But it does definitely suck.
Yeah, I completely feel the whole like I don't know what day of the week it is because I lost my job, I got furloughed and then laid off and then lost. So I started my own business like selling stuff online, and everything is a blur. Like I wake up, I work till I sleep, but like it's not really high impact. And next thing I know, like it's Thursday and I have no idea that it's Thursday. Even my kids' school schedule doesn't really help me keep track of what's going on because it's the same for her. She just wakes up, gets on her computer, and she's at school. It's bizarre. It's been a weird ass year.
Yeah, to say the least. But
Right.
seems like it might be turning up a little bit.
Let's hope so. So I have been seeing how much like your comic, especially Dead End Kids 1, goes for on eBay. How is that feeling for you? Like knowing that your comic sometimes is kind of a hot commodity.
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely wild. The first book came out a little over a year ago. Now it came out the middle of last summer, and it was a much bigger hit than most people who had any opinion on it could have ever guessed. Like I had very managed expectations. I thought, God, if we sell a few hundred copies of this, that's going to be a win, and then bring in some fans. We'll sell a few hundred more on the next book, and like we'll build this career over 10 or 15 years, and we'll build up the fan base. But then the first book, by the end of it, by the end of all the print runs, sold like 7 or 8 thousand copies. It's just insane.
Yeah.
And that first print, all three first prints, but especially the first issue first print, had a solid like 12 weeks where it was going for $40 or more on eBay, which absolutely blows my mind. Just positively blows my mind because I am not afraid to spend a lot of money on comics, but I wouldn't spend a lot of money on one of my comics. um, yeah, no, I mean that's cool, and it's kind of like it's something I keep track of now because it's just you want to be able to grab a screenshot of that and use it as like a marketing asset if the opportunity arises. And since we announced volume 2, it's about a month ago, a little more than a month ago now, I've been watching that first one tick up a little bit again, which is kind of cool. It kind of settled down around like $15 or $20, but still seeing it going for $30 every once in a while. It's crazy.
I did think it was funny. You posted on Facebook, somebody, it was running for like 25 bucks or something, but they had misspelled your last name. And you had said, come on, man, it's like on the front cover. And that gave me a good chuckle because that's 100% something I would do.
Yeah, eBay has given me a couple of really good stories. Like that's one of them. Like it's a signed book. I signed it for you. The least you can do is write my name correctly. I wrote it on the book. It's printed on the book. But beyond that, when the book was first coming out, maybe this was October last year, so maybe it just finished coming out. I found a listing on eBay for the first issue, graded at 9.8. I think I have it somewhere. It's under that pile right there, but it is here. The guy was saying that he had like inside info that the book had been optioned for TV, which it hasn't. So I scoped out this. It was an auction, and it was at like $38, and it had like an hour left. So right at the last minute, I sniped it for $40, and he had to put a package together with my name on it. He knew I knew he was full of shit. He had to mail that to me, and now it's my little trophy.
That's awesome.
That's my first print copy, and I got a graded copy for $40. It's crazy,
right? Which is awesome. It would cost you that much to get it graded, probably. Like I think it costs like 25 bucks just to get it graded. So
yeah. I have a creator account, so I can do it for like 35 shipped back and forth, but that's still, I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah. It's interesting, like it's interesting to see like how as an independent creator you've picked up steam, like even over like this weird dead period. I mean, there was like a time, for a few months there where like even DC and Marvel weren't putting out comic books because like everything was just so shut down. And like it's interesting to see like you still have like steam rolling, like even though you didn't have the opportunity to go to conventions, people are still excited about what you're coming out with. What do you think it is that you've been doing to like keep people interested like in you and in what you're doing over this year?
Yeah, I could talk about that all day. It's just a lot. It's like they call it the kitchen sink method. But before I dig into that, I want to touch on that first part you said, where it's, we have been in this weird period where comics were gone for a while. There was no distribution, and that was kind of like a really fucking scary time, if I'm being honest, because No Heroine came out this year, and it solicited in the April catalog to come out in July, and the April catalog came out the last week of March, which was when everything shut down.
Yeah.
So I had this book. It's of the books I've written, it's my favorite. I had pretty managed but high expectations for it. And then the second people are able to start pre-ordering it, shops are shut. There's no distribution anymore. Marvel and DC are just furloughing everybody and like pencils down. Like all of a sudden, like all the wind was out of my sails, because we talked earlier in the year about No Heroine, because I started promoting the book back in January, like 7 months before the book came out. Like I really wanted this book to be something it's a special book to me. I really wanted it to hit a lot of hands, and like then I was like, I want to double the pre-orders from Dead End Kids #1. No Heroine #1 is going to do 200% of that. And then that shutdown happened. I was like, okay, maybe we'll do as many pre-orders. Maybe we'll just we'll match it. And then like as time went on, I just eventually was like, maybe the book will come out this year. Oh my God, this book's not coming out this year.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly deflating, and like just finding ways to keep people engaged and on their radars was a Rubik's cube, like with like 1,000 moving parts, because I'm trapped in my house. Like I'm unlimited in what I can do, but I'm limited by what I can do where I'm at. So it's like it was tough. I'm happy to say that the book ended up only being delayed 1 week, which blows my mind. It ended up coming out the 3rd week of July instead of the 2nd week of July. And we did 220% of the pre-orders, which is more than what we were thinking we would do. So like all things considered, like it was a big win in a lot of ways. And to get back to the original question, like a lot of that had to do with the stuff we were doing, Source Point Press and myself, especially me. It was just a lot of engagement, continuing with interviews. One of the things I really pivoted hard towards this year, and I think you have too, is more video interviews.
Yeah.
I think that YouTube in particular, like when you look at some of those people, they have millions of viewers, they have tens of thousands of hits on day one. There's a lot of potential there, especially in the comic book space, because those that's influencers count for something, and that's what those people are. So I did a ton of that. I also did a ton to really broaden my retailer network. At the beginning of the pandemic, like that first week after shutdown started, one of the most fantastic retailers in the game, one of the pioneers in the retailing space, Jen King of Space Cadets Collection down in Houston area. She put together a private Facebook group called Plan C Distribution. I think the C was for comics, but essentially what it became was a group of thousands and thousands of comics professionals. Everyone just added everyone they knew, and I was in there, having those conversations with people, but also finding the retailers, connecting with them, reaching out to them, say, hey, look, I know you guys are shut down. Like, is there anything I can do to help? I know you're opening back up. I know DC and Marvel aren't sending product right now. How can I try and hook you up with my publisher? Source Point Press is still operating. They have warehouse staff. We can get you stuff. We can get you stuff for free. Like we did some fundraising to be able to essentially give away the product so we don't lose money, but so the retailers don't have to pay it. And that was, I think about $11,000 we were able to raise for that. And then we did the retailer relief variant for No Heroine, which was just, really just a really successful initiative in that it brought money into shops without costing them anything, but also put the book on a lot of people's radars, made it somewhat desirable. It was kind of a situation where everyone won, but just kind of every day sitting down and writing a list of things that we could do and just trying to execute on them as fast as we can to get us, cast as wide a net. What's cool about that is like we really went out of the frying pan into the fire in a lot of ways, and now I know a lot more things that work really well. Whether they'll work as well or in the same way, like in a more normal environment with no pandemic, like it remains to be seen. But promoting Dead End Kids 2 right now in a much more stable environment, not pandemic free, but shops are open, distribution's happening. it seems to have paid like huge dividends. Like I know probably 800 or 900 retailers like on a first name basis where I didn't know a third of that at the beginning of the year. And these are people who are out there in their own stores evangelizing my work. Like they like me, they like my books. They want to tell their customers about them. That all sounds really arrogant, so don't take it to me that way.
Oh,
But but that's how it works. Like that, you build a relationship with the retailers. If you have a good book, they're gonna tell their customers about it. And I did the sort of manual outreach to all my retailer friends about Dead End Kids too, and half of them were like, "Oh no, already on our radars. We had a couple of people come in and already ask for it. We're pushing on people." I'm like, "That's exactly what we want to hear."
yeah. I don't think of it as arrogant, because you've put in the work to accomplish that. Like, obviously you put in networking, and it's interesting because a lot of the things that we, do, a lot of the things that we anticipate doing, like talking to creators like you, talking to movie stars and directors and that sort of thing, like we've managed to accomplish that like on video chats this year. So the things that we go to conventions for, like we don't have quite as much as we would if we were going to like the 3 or 4 conventions a year, but we still have plenty because we're able to like reach out to people that we probably never could have talked to, but they're not doing anything, so they don't care. They're like, sure, I'll do an interview. I don't give a shit if it's about a movie I did like 15 years ago. It's been really, really interesting. Like, I feel like we're all creating these new skill sets that when the pandemic is over, we'll still be able to utilize in like really unique ways. And it's really fun, like, and really interesting. It's probably one of the few upsides of this whole nightmare.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And we're all trapped in place. So there's no new movies. There's nothing to go spend money on really. Like, it's not like we're going to have to eat. We're not taking vacations. Like all we have is time. Like obviously we all still have jobs and we have to take care of our families, but anything we would have been doing, that time is free, and the people who use it are going to come out the other end, with a few more skills and a little more well-rounded. But at the same time, like for anyone who's not handling this that well, like, and are just really just working on day-to-day stuff and like mental health and stuff like that, that's absolutely fine too. Like, I mean, there's no need to walk away from this in better shape as long as you walk away from it, right?
Right. Oh man, mental health has been a huge issue, like just in our house and like with everybody I know. It's such a weird situation. I feel that, leaning into like creativity and the arts and, reading and writing and drawing and that sort of thing has been really helpful for me and a lot of the people in my family and in my friends group. Do you find yourself leaning into like your creative instincts a lot more because you have more time and because we're all just so confined to where we are?
I want to be romantic and say that I have been, but if I'm being honest, the answer is no. I think I've been as creative as I would have been, if the world was the same. Just because I'm an organized person. I don't think of necessarily as like exclusively art. There's like a practical aspect of it where I know I need to, where I have a schedule for the next few years of the books I want to put out, and I know I need to have these books done by then, and this is the pace I move at. So here's when we need to be done with this set of scripts and on art for that, so I can get on to the next one. And like it's all very practical for me. That's not to say I don't enjoy it. That like if there's not art involved like in the process, but like I am really unromantic. Like people who identify as artistes really piss me off. Artistes. But that said, like I have been able to lean into some of the more practical stuff, like the networking, like really figuring out the giant questions around comic book marketing. Like comics have been around for if we're using Batman as like the starting point, over 80 years now, right? And we really still haven't figured out how to market comics. And with a one-person staff and a limited budget, like I feel like I'm really making strides towards figuring out some of those bigger questions. Like how do you reach new readers? How do you keep people engaged? How do you make social media work for it? Like so many people, including myself in a lot of ways, like struggle getting traction on social media, especially with comics. I still am struggling on Twitter, like, and that's like the real comic space. Like a lot of people on comics are on Twitter, but my Facebook is really not a personal profile anymore. It is mostly fans of my work and retailers, and like being able to use that as like a big signal boost. So projects like that, I've been building a retailer database that's like really robust and has a lot of functions and like those kinds of really kind of things that I would be doing if like things were normal. I'd be writing if things were normal. I'd be getting up at 5 every morning and writing my 5 or 6 pages of script a day, and like so I'm trying to use the time to do things that aren't that. I've also been playing a lot of video games, which isn't something I do. Like, I want to, but that's like one of those things where I'm like, nope, there's just not time for it. So the new games pile up, and then they're old games eventually, and I've worked through most of the backlog. So like I've been trying to work smart, but also like relax a little bit. I don't ever relax. Like last year, Dead End Kids came out. I did 22 cons. I did 22 store signings in states that weren't California where I live, so that doesn't even include the California ones. Planned and had a wedding, and just I don't think I stopped moving until like we sat down for this interview.
That's awesome. It's funny. I've been playing way more video games than I ever played. I like 100%ed Final Fantasy 15. I went like crazy on Tony Hawk 1 and 2. Like I'm playing Days Gone right now. Like, and I'm the same way. Like before, I was coaching a sports team and doing the podcast and doing my own thing and going to work every day. And there's just zero time to do that kind of stuff. And it's been kind of nice. Like I've read books and played video games and, still managed to do all the other things that I need to do at home. It's different. It's funny because we talk about how awful it is, and it is. Like tons of people are sick, tons of people die, but like there's these weird like upsides to it. Yeah, like little silver linings where you're like, well, I guess that's not so bad. I just wish my friends weren't in the hospital kind of thing. It's nuts. Like the whole thing is nuts. As we're going forward, like, we're trying to move past it. There's all this good news about vaccines and things like that. But, we don't really know what next year is going to look like yet. There's a good chance that there won't be conventions. There's a good chance that, we're going to be, or maybe just a few conventions or really limited, people are allowed in, that sort of thing. Like, what are some of the things that you're kind of anticipating doing next year if you're unable to like do the things that you would like to do?
Well, I've already put in like a hard rule for myself that I won't do a convention like as of today. Yeah, with the way things are today and like the kind of projections for how things might go. I definitely am not doing any conventions until at least June. Like that's just that's expert recommended timeline for like when things might look a little normal again, and that's a long way away still. But with that, there's all the news coming out the last week or so, and probably in the next couple of weeks that most of the conventions that would happen during that time are getting moved or canceled. Right, Emerald City and C2E2 are now in December when they would have been in March and April. So,
right.
It's fluid. I know that the big thing for me is I'm not going to travel if I don't think it's safe. And I travel a lot and I travel far and I'm happy to do it, but like I want to be able to travel again. So
right.
like dying's not on the menu,
Sorry.
So I don't know. It's funny. I'm funny.
All the humor right now is gallows humor, and that's my favorite kind. So.
So right now, next year for me looks like I made the choice that we were going to do 2 books next year instead of 1, which was maybe going to be the case. I wasn't sure, but with all the extra time and the money I'm saving from traveling, like it made sense to me that there's room in the publishing schedule to do it. I'm going to do Dead End Kids' Suburban Job in the first part of the year, and then we'll have a second book with Source Point in the summer into fall months of the year, and give myself a little time in between them. But I am also continuing to really dig into trying to figure out how to network with editors and without the ability to meet them in person. Like in my experience, which I've never done work for hire, so like I could be totally wrong. But based on everyone I've ever talked to and in my limited experience so far, really until editors can put a face to a name, like it really doors don't open that often.
Right.
Right. I remember I was emailing with an IDW editor for like 2 years, and it was always very friendly. He always emailed me back, like, which I appreciate because it's a lot don't ever.
Yeah.
But there were never any conversations until we met in person, face to face. Like it was we were talking, but there were no conversations. You know what I mean? And then after that, like it really opened up the relationship a little bit, and like I think it makes you real, in a weird way. While all that was happening, I was also putting together like a back catalog of work that I had published, which I'm sure helped the situation too. So, but figuring out like, all right, if there's no conventions and if no one is out for meetings, like how do we do this? I will say that I did just last week get like my first email from an editor who I was talking to a little bit, who I really felt like I was barely with my foot in the door with, reached out to me about doing a book, like not asking me if I wanted to pitch for the book, asked me if I wanted to do the book, which was really cool because it's a book that I'm super fucking excited about. Like I can't say what it is now because it's not 100% official yet. The licensor still has to approve me as the writer, but like it's 99% there already. Like,
That's
and this
awesome.
like 1 week ago, this wasn't the case, so I'm like buzzing about it. But when and if I'm able to talk to it, like it's going to seem like I just cut right to the front of the line. Like, I just jumped to the top of the ladder. So fingers crossed on that. But that's it panned out. So I'm going to kind of take a look at that and kind of try and reverse engineer like what worked there. Like it could have been a million things. I don't know. But maybe I'll ask the editor someday. Like,
I'm sure
what
it's
made
your I'm sure it's your stunning personality or dashing good looks, one or the other.
could be. But yeah, so 2021 is 2 books on the calendar, possibly probably a third published thing. I'll know more about that next week, and then trying to dig out a couple more of those opportunities next year. Like my this year, I had a couple of like goals that I set for myself, like milestones I wanted to hit, and one of them was for my first creator-owned project, or not my first creator, my first freelance project, which just almost at the wire we might get, might hit that one. I thought that one was just off limits, wasn't going to happen, no way. Putting out No Heroine, making that a hit, doing everything I could to do make people like that book and read that book. So like I didn't get to do my 20 plus conventions. I didn't get to do any store signings, but I'm hoping next year will be at least a little bit different.
Right. Well, I mean, it sounds like you've managed to actually like get through all of this like quite effectively. It sounds like, with the exception of like the goals, because I remember like you're a very different kind of person than I am. Like, you're very organized, you like set goals for yourself. I'm the guy that just goes, all right, let's do this thing, and just like runs at it headlong until I like fail at it. So like it's that it's awesome to me to see that in spite of like all the craziness that's happening, really the only goals that you were setting for yourself that you weren't able to like fulfill just revolve around the fact that nobody could have fulfilled those goals
Yeah.
because none of those things happened because pandemic. So
Every day when I wake up, the song 8 Mile by Eminem like starts playing in my head. I'm just like, it just gotta be too big to fail. Can't, just gotta be so good they have to notice me, kind of thing. Like, for good or for bad, like, because there are some days where I drive myself a little too hard. But you're right. I do just kind of make a plan and stick to it. That's the perception, right? There's a lot of pivoting and there's a lot of fuck ups along the way, and we just don't talk about that.
right.
But it's what does Vin Diesel say? It's not. It's
We're family.
no. I mean, it doesn't matter if you win by an inch or by a mile. Winning's winning.
Oh, okay.
No,
if you're not first, you're last. No.
No, that's Ricky Bobby.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Well, Frank, as we're getting kind of towards the end of our chat, I don't even feel like it was an interview. I just feel like I'm chatting with one of my friends right now. But like, as we get towards the end of it, like, let our viewers and listeners know, like, how can they get a hold of your book, how can they keep
Sure.
track of you? How can they find out about your exciting news of your new property? Hopefully, fingers crossed for you. Like,
Yeah.
where do we go for that?
All right. Let me tackle those in some kind of order that makes sense. All right. First things first. The sequel to Dead End Kids is in solicits right now. It's up for pre-order. It is called Dead End Kids: The Suburban Job. It is a sort of sideways sequel in the vein of like a True Detective season. So it's not the same cast. It's not it's set maybe in the same world, but it doesn't really matter. It's a fresh start, new reader friendly kind of deal. But if you read the first one, it's same creative team, same look and feel. Dark as hell. It's you'll get more of what you loved the first time around, hopefully.
Nice.
But this book is centered on three teens in 2008 who are the loved ones and survivors of folks who died on or because of September 11th.
Okay.
So we've got three new kids. Tori, who is the daughter of a firefighter who died on Ground Zero on September 12th. Brian, who is the brother of a soldier who's killed in Afghanistan a few years later. And Amna, who is a young Pakistani American woman who's living in America in a post 9/11 racially exacerbated kind of world. And these are three former friends who are kind of almost antagonistic to one another as they've fallen out over the years, and they are brought back together when they come across a bag of stolen cash that belongs to a local drug dealer and kind of gets them on his radar. So in a lot of ways, it's the look and feel of the first book, but it's also an inversion. It's not a tight-knit group of kids who all get along and take care of one another. It's kids who are struggling with a lot of shit at home and kind of dealing with it in isolation. And this is it's very much a story about sequels. Like this is their second shot at a friendship, and what does that look like? There's some meta commentary in there too. Of the two books, I definitely love this one a lot more. I think I'm a better writer. I think it's about something that's extremely personal to me. I grew up in New Jersey, within eyeshot of Lower Manhattan. Like we could look across the bay from where I lived and see the Twin Towers on a clear day. And I remember standing on our beachfront and watching all the people around me horrified and watching the smoke kind of plume up. And I've thought about that kind of day for almost 20 years, every single day of my life, and how it's affected me. And I really wanted to take that emotional engine of the first book, that look at childhood trauma, and laser focus it on this one specific event and how that affected an entire generation of kids, and kind of channel that through a specific set of kids who are going through a specific set of things. It's not a book about 9/11. Like I would have never done that. I'd feel really uncomfortable or dirty, like writing a book about that, making money about it. But it is about what these kids are going through 7 years later and how it's affected their lives and how it's changed their lives and how it's hurting them. It's also a heist story. It's got that crime angle. Don't worry, it's not all sad. It's sad and dark and crime. So that's in previews right now. You can pre-order that at your local comic shop anywhere in the world. Pre-orders are due by December 4th. If you want to make sure you definitely get a copy. Anytime after that, you're rolling the dice. And the first book was any indicator, I would get the pre-order in earlier
Sure.
rather than. I've been saying you can pre-order it for $4 now, or you can buy it on eBay for 40 later.
Yeah.
It seems like simple math.
They are definitely going to go poof quick.
In addition to that, the No Heroine Collected Edition is also in previews right now. It comes out the same day as Dead End Kids 2 #1, both on January 27th, 2021. So if you missed out on the series or you want a nice copy for your shelf, I designed the trade dress and the trade paperback itself. It's a really good-looking collection, lots of stuff at the back. It's the kind of collection I would pick up. It's only $10. It's regular size trade for way cheaper than most. Especially if you're buying Marvel books. So pre-orders are there. People can follow me all the other places. I'm on Twitter. Like I said, it's not great, but I'm trying. If you're a creator or a fan, you want to connect with me on Facebook, I have a Facebook profile. Hit me up there. As long as you're not flying a swastika or anything in your profile picture, we'll probably get along. And I'm on Instagram. Everything is just /Frank Gogol, @Frank Gogol, just one word, no space. I also do a newsletter. This is the one that I try to point people towards the most. It is no algorithms. It's really unfiltered. We're talking about Dead End Kids 2 now, but I was talking about Dead End Kids 2 in their God, over a year ago, well in advance of the announcement. Like I'm pretty transparent in there. With that property that I might be writing, I can't say that specifically, but I'm definitely going to talk a little bit about what that experience is like in there. And then I try to make it worth people's while. Like I don't try to clog up your inbox. It's twice a month. There are exclusives if you like variants and stuff every once in a while. Like I just really try to make it worth people's while. And we're coming up on I think 1,000 subscribers there. So if anyone wants to do that, there's links for that in my Twitter bio and my Instagram bio on Facebook. I post about it every once in a while. You'll find a way to connect. So any of those work. I think that's everything, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Well, Frank, as always, it's really a pleasure to have you on the show. And like it's fascinating watching your star rise and like being able to talk to you while it happens. And especially through like such a tumultuous like year that this year has been, and like being able to see like optimism to reality like over the course of the year. It's been really, really cool. And I can't wait to have you on again, maybe like as Dead End Kids is wrapping or something like that, so we can see like this journey keep going. Because I mean, I get the feeling that someday I'll be like, yeah, I've talked to Frank Gogol, and people will be like, no shit, like, so that's my goal.
Yeah,
So
I mean that'll be a great experience for you. But when I'm like, yeah, I talk to Frank Gogol all the time, people are gonna be, oh, it's time to lock his ass away. Um, but yeah, no, I mean I'm happy to come on. Thank you for your time. Like everyone always thanks me for coming on, but you're in the middle of your night. You got kids, you got a family, you got shit to do. You're gonna take time to post this and promote this. Like I mean, this is such a bigger commitment for you than it is for me. So I appreciate your time. And I will absolutely love to come back and for forever, no matter how high my star rises. Like if I'm writing Avengers and Jonathan Hickman's like my caddy, like he's carrying around my computer or whatever. Like even when I'm that big, I'll still come back because
nice.
I'll have the championship belt. I'll have to.
Right. Well, we'll have to get you that championship belt, man, once you overcome. I'll ask Juan, who's been on the most, because you're close. I know you're close. And I think the guy that's been on more, like I said, he's another creator. I think he's only been on like four, maybe 5 times. So like you're like there. You're like right there.
I'll come
Awesome.
back next. I'll come back next week. We can talk about whatever you want.
Right on. Well, Frank, thank you so much for being on the show as always. Like I'm really looking forward to Dead End Kids too. If it's anything near as good as the first volume or No Heroine, I'm sold, because I mean I love both of them. I've voraciously read both of them. So thanks again for being on, man. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.